Hello, everyone, again. I hope you're doing well. I've had a lot of questions posed to me about differences between Gentiles and Jews, per se, as far as their religious differences and how the breakouts are. As you know, and I just received the information from a Pew Research study here in the U.S. About individuals who are leaving by the droves every Christian denomination you can count. I'm talking about Roman Catholics among Hispanics. Mormons are fairly steady, but they're losing too. Protestant denominations such as Southern Baptists, Assembly of God, uh, Methodist, Episcopalian, all of these are losing the millennials, okay? They've been researched left and right from many different aspects of this study. For instance, how often do you go to church? Do you consider yourself religious? Now, this is may be a surprise to some, but the church is failing a great majority of Americans. Okay. As far as Orthodoxy and Jews, well, if you're an Orthodox Jew, you have larger families, you have less turnover. Orthodox Jews are growing by numbers compared to Reform Jews and conservative Jews and Reconstructionist Jews. What does that say? Well, when you are more reform minded, more liberal minded, less conservative politically and socially, you're losing the next generation. Okay? When you're more anchored in truth, when you're more centered and less hypocritical behavior at home by parents. In other words, if you tell your daughter or son they need to say a baroka, they need to pray before they eat, they need to pray before they wash their hands, they need to go to Sunday school. Yeah, we have Sunday school in the Jewish context in our synagogue. Um, we send our children, most observant Jewish parents send their children to religious school, which is Hebrew school, Jewish immersion school. And if they go to school and they hear a rabbi or teacher tell them one thing about the Holy Torah or the Talmud or written or oral tradition, if they see a dichotomy of truth, a yin and yang when they come home, and they see a hypocritical behavior by their parents, and that's inconsistent messaging, folks. You see less of that hypocritical or inconsistent messaging in Orthodox context. I'm telling you the truth, okay? This is a challenge even for my home. Me having a daughter has transformed me as a Jew, okay? It's driven me more Orthodox because I am taking it very seriously the way I raise the soul of my young daughter. It's not germane to get into that too much. I want to share with you something called the Noahide laws. Now, I have done a few videos on this. In Parashat Noach, I believe I talked about this. The Noahide laws are essentially 7 laws that are codified since Adam and Noach and after the flood, and it was passed on to his sons in a holy covenant between Noach's family and Hashem. Okay? Now, Rabbi Moshe Maimonides, known as Ramban in the 1200s, actually codified this in 7 major laws, and they have been broken out to 7 minor laws that go along with that. Okay, now I'm going to read you something. These are 7 laws. This is a prototype, folks, for the Torah. You don't have to be Jewish to receive the shalom and peace of God. Now, just bear with me. I'm going to read this to you. Number 1, do not profane God's oneness in any way. What does that mean? Acknowledge that there is a single God, novel concept, right? Who cares about what we are doing and desires that we take care of his world. Tikkun Olam, healing the world, begins at home, folks. And acknowledging that there's only one God who created heavens and universe is a fundamental constant, okay? Number 2, do not curse the Creator. Novel concept 2. No matter how angry you may be, do not take it out verbally against your Creator God. How can you curse the Creator God that breathed your soul into your body at conception. When we were born, we received a soul from Hashem. How can you curse that? How can you curse food on your table? How can you curse the paycheck? How can you curse something that you're planted and grown? How can you curse a child that's been born from you? All these blessed miracles of everything we take for granted, a rainbow, a sunrise, a sunset, all of these things. Do not murder, okay? The fundamental value of human life cannot be measured. It can't be quantified. What's the worth of a human soul? Wow. To destroy a single human life is to destroy the entire world. It's an amazing thing. Think about what that child or that individual could do to help the world, like a cure for cancer, for instance. So it follows that by sustaining a single human life, you are sustaining an entire universe. This buys into charity, folks. I drive this home all the time. Charity, hospitality, meeting the needs of the poor, the widows and orphans. That's sustaining life. Sustaining life is probably the greatest of all mitzvahs they are. Do not eat a limb of a living animal. This talks about blood in the tissues of the muscular fibers of meat, okay? Respect for life and all God's creatures. It's amazing that when you consider that you have to put this in stone, per se, you say you do not eat an animal when it's alive, okay? This was in practice back in Noach's days. Number 5, we are not to steal, okay? Whatever benefits you receive in this world, make sure that none of them are at the unfair expense of someone else, okay? Never put anyone else at a disadvantage to elevate yourself. It's very simple. You feel like your parents are speaking to kindergartners, or maybe your mother or your grandmother told you this. This is fundamental. This is very basic, okay, for a civilized society. Number 6, harness and channel the human libido. Well, what does that mean? Well, incest, adultery, rape, and homosexual relations are strictly forbidden. That's a little bit controversial in our contemporary society, but it's very clear in the Torah what led to the flood, folks. What led to destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, folks. What led to destruction of the Canaanite race of peoples, and there was many tribal peoples that made up Canaan back in the day. They offered human sacrifice, folks. Bestiality, you can imagine all the isms there is when you break away from the heterosexual relationship that God had sanctioned between Adam and Havilah or Eve. The family unit is the foundation of human society. Sexuality is the foundation of life, so nothing is more holy than the sexual act between a married couple. So too, when abused, nothing can be more debasing and destructive to the human being. We hear about human trafficking. We hear about brothels and things like that. You hear about young girls that are taken away and are raped. You hear about these young marriages and in Islam and other things like that. This is strictly forbidden to treat a woman, to debase a woman like garbage and trash. And unfortunately, this is still happening in the 21st century. Number 7, Commandment 7, establish courts of law and ensure justice in our world. This is very basic, folks. With every small act of justice, we are restoring harmony to our world, synchronizing it with a supernal order. That is why we must keep the laws and established by our government for the country's stability and harmony. We are to respect the laws of the land, where even if we're a Jew in the diaspora, like myself and my wife and my family and other Jews that I know. It doesn't matter what country that we call home, we respect those laws if there are moral laws, okay? There are in some countries, in Latin America, for instance, that San Salvador, that you have an immoral government that's committing illegal acts that is violating fundamental civil rights. I'm not talking about that. So where am I going? These 7 fundamental commandments. If you keep these 7 commandments, you will be a better human being. Doesn't mean you have to convert to any number of religious denominations. It doesn't mean you have to go to church. This is a fundamental Bible that you carry with you in your heart and soul. Hopefully, it will lead to other things. Hopefully, it will lead to a discovery effort upon your life, reading the Torah, reading the Tanakh, the Jewish Hebrew Bible, reading the Talmud, the oral tradition, all the commentary, the wealth of very wise sages, wiser than me, had codified in years ago. Believing in the one true God of Israel, being lovers of Israel, not haters of Israel, doing everything you can to educate yourself and your family and your friends against the evil of anti-Semitism. So by keeping these fundamental laws, what you're saying is that you love God and you acknowledge the wonderful, sweet, and delicious love God has for you. He created you in his own image, okay? God does not make trash, folks. It doesn't matter how you look, whether you're big, small, fat, skinny, whatever color your face is, whether you have a beard or no hair on your head at all. It doesn't matter who you look like on the outside. You have the image of God. His fingerprint is upon you, and that greatness is within you. So you hear about the Noahide laws. You hear about the Noahide peoples out there. People are living the church simply because they're disenchanted. The church has let them down. You hear about the horrible sexual abuses within the Catholic Church. That's not germane. I'm not getting to that. You hear about all the cultism. You hear about all the elitism. You hear about people running away with parishioners' money to enrich their bank accounts, all this selfishness, all this. Folks, children can see right through their hypocrisy, and they see it at home, they see it in the church, they see it no matter where you're at. They have a fundamental sense of fairness, and that's what this is talking about. I hope this has been a lesson of truth for you. I hope it's meant something to you. It doesn't matter. You don't have to convert to Judaism. I'm not advocating conversion to Judaism. We don't convert, folks. People come to us. People come to us from the church. People, I know people that were previously Roman Catholics. They left there. They ran from there and went to the synagogue to convert. I don't have to sell my Torah to anybody. The Torah brings it to you only if you acknowledge the truth and knowledge of that. Read about the Noahide laws, as in the books of Genesis up to Exodus. Remember the story about Noach and his sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. I'm talking about Shem, which began actually the Semitic races eventually that led to the ancestry of Abraham, and which began with Yitzhak and Yaakov, the 12 tribes of Israel. Shem was a holy man. He was a righteous man. He carried through oral tradition these Noahide laws all the way down to Abraham's father in Haran in Mesopotamia, the land of, that land where he came from, his ancestry of polytheism. But Abraham probably heard of the Noahide laws, and it meant something to him. That's why he left polytheism. That's why he left his father's and his family's denominational belief in ancient Babylon, of that area, and came and listened to God and occupied the righteousness that only God could give him by his life's choices. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Take care, and God bless you.